So the Declaration, what did it accomplish? Part 2. Now that we've gone through the state of nature argument in Hobbes versus Locke, we ask ourselves again, what did the Declaration actually accomplish? Well, let's start off with the basics. What did the Declaration of Independence say? Well, let's start off with Jefferson was a lawyer, so he wrote the Declaration as if it were a legally reasoned argument. It was organized into short, specific sections. It was almost drawn out like a proof in geometry. In its sections, for example, the introduction, he explains why independence was necessary. In the preamble, the second section, he lists several self-evident truths and natural rights that apply to all people and the purpose of just governments. And it is a listing of their beliefs. The third section, indictment of George III. Now, this was a stylistic convention. While their main argument was actually with Parliament, they still believed in elected legislatures. Therefore, they attacked the legitimacy of the monarchy. The fourth section, the denunciation of the British people, was there to denounce them as different from each other and separate, meaning the American people and the British people as different and separate from each other. They also blamed the British people for allowing horrible things to happen to the colonists, for not doing their part or their enlightened duty to help prevent unjust governments from squashing personal rights. The final section was the conclusion and declared that Americans were free and independent. The introduction of the Declaration states, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. In this section, Jefferson elevates and dignifies the Revolution as a special event, having claim to moral legitimacy. It was necessary as determined by natural law, and Americans and British were a separate people. In the preamble, he argues such things as, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What is he saying here? These self-evident truths tell us that we have natural rights that cannot be violated by a sovereign. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles as organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. What is he saying here? Governments are instituted by social contract from the consent of the governed, who can change it when it no longer has such consent. He goes on that prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. In other words, in short, what he's saying we aren't taking this action lightly. In fact, people often endure tyranny patiently. rather than upset these long-standing traditional bonds. They suffer and suffer and suffer. And finally it's reached such a level where they have essentially become the subject of a despot. They've become slaves. And that has been their patient suffering, and that no longer will they tolerate this.